Hexagram 58. Through wanting, we waver. This hexagram refers to the difference between true freedom in detachment and apparent freedom in the bravado of careless indifference, self-importance, and arrogant self-confidence. The image of the placid, unruffled surface of the lake symbolizes true joy as serenity that arises from the sublime source. Even the slightest wrinkle of the brow, like the ripple on the lake, indicates the presence of an emotion that, if it is allowed to continue, will cause turmoil in which true joy disappears. The crucial moment that leads away from serenity and inner independence is the movement of wavering. When we begin to listen to seductive fantasies put forward by our ego, these seductive images cause us to want, wonder, and worry, thus lose the leadership of our superior self. The first moment of wavering is often only a vague, disconnected mood. Forgive me. The first moment of wavering is often only a vague, discontented mood. Next, we hear our whining inferiors saying such things as nothing works. Wavering is already progressing unchecked towards the next stage of discontent, in which the leadership of the ego is reestablished. Under its leadership, we are no longer sensitive to our inner voice. Next, we start to be indifferent to our path as we proceed to an active disbelief. Disbelief in turn conjures up as we proceed to an active disbelief. Disbelief in turn conjures up alternate courses of action so that we begin to pursue pleasure, comfort, and self-aggrandizement. Doing this creates self-conflict, then doubt, which we feel as a gnawing hole in the chest or abdomen. The chief sign of one who feels hopeless is striving to force happiness or success, because this leads only to disappointment. He attempts by conniving to steal it. This failing, he ceases to care and pursues pleasure in a contrived indifference. Contrived indifference becomes vengeful indifference. If or when he speaks to punish those he blames for his disappointment, neither true joy nor true pleasure can be found by pursuing joy, pleasure, or success as things in themselves. The hexagram counsels us to pay attention to times when we become seduced by the notion that the pursuit of these things will lead to happiness. It also counsels us not to adopt contrived attitudes simply because they worked before. All contrived approaches or attitudes are based on the small but powerful doubts put forward by our ego. Doubts that enable it to retain command. The I Ching always counsels us to keep open, neutral, and unstructured in attitude. The basis for true joy is inner independence, a stability created through accepting life as it is, and through accepting each new moment without inner resistance. Acceptance is achieved through imposing discipline on our whining inferiors, and through encouraging them to be patient. We need to remain unstructured, willing to be led. If we entertain doubt, argue with fate, or think of ways to evade this discipline, we lose our inner equilibrium and direction by the truth self. If we allow our ego too long for the soft and comfortable path, it will then begin to seek ways to shortcut the necessary steps that lead to our goals. This takeover by the ego creates self-conflict. The quietness of the shining lake is disturbed. In all these activities, the ego secretly insinuates doubts into our inner ear. By keeping aware that it is behind these activities, we deprive it of its power. We see that we are wavering or wanting. We should return to acceptance. In freeing ourselves from wanting, we return to harmony with the cosmos. Two people attain joy when both are sincere in trying to keep correct within themselves. Their independent searches for the truth within themselves serve as inexhaustible wellsprings, supporting each other and nourishing everyone around them. Changing line number 1. Centered joyousness. Centered joyousness means arriving at inner harmony through being free of desire. Even though everything around us seems difficult, stubborn, and decadent, if we empty our heart of desire and sacrifice wanting, we will attain the emptiness that leads to the insights needed to proceed correctly. No longer being jostled by the appearance of things, we are unable, no longer being jostled by the appearance of things, we are able to have a good effect on those around us. We should also realize that it is one thing to require others to be correct with us, and another to want it. Wanting implies doubt. If we are being treated unjustly, we should not relinquish or require our requirements that we be treated correctly, but keep detached, open-minded, and free of wanting. With this attitude, we can win the assent of others to do what is right. Both time and the power of the cosmos will come to our aid to rectify the matter. Sometimes we receive this line at the moment we begin to doubt the creative impact of following the true and the good. Receiving it reassures us that we do have an impact, even though it may not be apparent. Changing line number 2. Sincere joyousness. We are tempted to adopt fixed ideas of ourselves or of our situation as a means of self-comfort and as rationalization for giving way to the pressures of the situation. Such images may be positive, as in, I am special. I don't have to put up with people's bad behavior, or negative, as in life is meant to be a bad experience, or I need someone to help me. We learn on such images in an attempt to evade acceptance of the unknown, dependence on the cosmos. All self-defensive images come from the ego, or baby part of ourselves, and must be firmly resisted. Sincere joyousness may also mean that we look for the wrong solution to our problems. For example, we may be wishing for unity between ourselves and another, when this would be at the expense of principle. The remedy is to refuse decisively to consider the idea further. Another temptation is to adopt special attitudes that we think will speed things along, or that we think once helped us solve similar problems. We should remain unstructured and not lean on any special devices to make progress. Our ego is at work, suggesting these ideas. Changing line number 3. Coming joyousness. It is important not to spend time lamenting our mistakes, but to accept the situation and move on. Otherwise, we will begin wanting to see visible progress, or wanting things to be more secure, less ambiguous, and more relaxed and comfortable. Such emotions give rise to self-pity, endless recriminations, doubt, and despair. Forgive me. Such emotions give rise to self-pity, useless recriminations, doubt, and despair. Wanting always initiates successively larger attacks of these feelings. For restlessness, desire, pride, jealousy, or anger are similar strong elements that quickly take over and cause movement that is not self-governed. In this matter, wanting causes us to lose direction. Coming joyousness also refers to times when we place importance on being recognized and opposed to being content with whether we are recognized or not. It is important not to be pulled in by the world and its lures. We should remain free of envy, of dependence on others, of desire for position, and of the lure to be recognized and understood. It is important not to value things that are not intrinsically valuable. True joy springs from guarding the sanctity of the inner being and from retaining our inner freedom. Changing line number 4. Joyousness that is weighed. We weigh whether or not to sacrifice some of our values in order to gain unity with others. For example, we consider tolerating a certain amount of indifference and unjust treatment, or we begin to consider new involvements because we doubt that our current situation will be resolved, or we are tempted to do something that might jeopardize our inner dignity because we think it will improve the situation or hasten progress. This line states implicitly that the pursuit of pleasure inevitably brings suffering. While this mainly refers to the pursuit of physical pleasure, it also refers to indulging self-importance through a display of bravado, power, correctness, helpfulness, wit, intelligence, skill, sharpness, or inner independence. Self-importance by suggestions put forward by our ego. Self-importance is contrary to our inner nature and creates self-conflict. We show off when old fears of not being equal to others are reawakened by our ego. These are fears that cause us to compare ourselves with others and to envy them. Such comparisons are always harmful. Also, we should not allow ourselves to indulge such thoughts as, "I would be happy if only this were so." Changing line number 5. Sincerity towards disintegrating influences. This means we are sincere in listening to self-flattering fantasies and seductions that tempt us to pursue self-advantage. For example, we think of doing something to improve the situation or to rush things along. Or we listen to feelings of self-pity, hopelessness, doubt, impatience, or fear of the thoughts about rights and the demands created by such rights. We may be wanting to be reorganized for one reason or another, or we may feel we have earned independence and no longer need the sage's help. Another seduction is to think of doing something wrong. Another seduction is to think of doing something because we imagine a tempting consequence. Seduction is always a wrong motive. Sometimes we are sincere in listening to what we want to hear, or we are too sincere to someone who is insensitive. We need to let such a person go on his way. Changing line number 6. Seductive joyousness. Because of the seeming intransigence because of the seeming intransigence of the situation, we are tempted to do something. If we are irresolute, the seductive fantasies put forward by our ego will cause us to stray from our path. Some of these seductions occur as feelings of self-importance, self-pity, impatience, anger, or alienation. Others occur as feelings of negation, restlessness, or desire. If these feelings are not firmly resisted, they will destroy our will to persevere. of all evils, vanity in the form of self-importance is the most seductive and therefore the most dangerous. The ego, as vanity, constantly watches to see how others see us. Even during self-development, the ego intrudes when it tries to draw attention to how well we serve the good. This completes Hexagram 58.